We're going to start off with the Committeewomen races for now. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have each candidate speak for up to 5 minutes, and then we'll bring them both up and answer questions from the audience. So it'll be by race. So starting off with a speech will be Ginger Howard for National Committeewoman.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for having me this morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you today? It's a good day to be a Georgian and a good day to be a Republican, and I greatly appreciate all of you and your hard work for Georgia and our party and our nation. My name is Ginger Howard, and some of you I know and some of you I don't, so I'm going to give you a quick biography of me. I was born in Waycross, Georgia. I went to University of Georgia, and I'm a Go Dogs, a great Bulldog fan, and majored in fashion merchandising, and I started my own business 31 years ago. Yes, I was 5, but I have a ladies' clothing store in Atlanta. I'm a small business owner, and I have been through ups and downs. I've been through Republican presidents and Democrat presidents. Let me tell you, I do a lot better when we have a Republican in the White House. What about y'all? So I moved to Washington, D.C. on a dare out of college, and my very first job was on the phone banks of the RNC, making phone calls, and everybody had to use a script, except I started raising money, and they said, how is this girl raising all this money? And I would call, and I wouldn't use a script, and I would just talk to somebody in this accent, and they would say, honey, I'll give you whatever amount of money you want if you'll just keep talking to me in that accent. So they had me calling Midwest and the North, and I was like the #1 fundraiser. It was in the RNC. So that's kind of full circle how I got my start at the RNC. And then a few years ago, I think everybody has a why. I see some children here of why you're here this morning, and you have a why of why you're doing something. Well, I have 2 whys, and they're my nephews. They're 14 years old, they're twins, and they live in Savannah, Georgia. And they are my why. And I get up this morning to drive here, and I have a small business that I told Brand, I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta work, I gotta meet my bookkeeper at the shop. He goes, I know, just come and speak and you've gotta go. But because this job is a volunteer job, I actually pay to do what I do, but it's an investment of my time, my treasure, my talent, because I love my country, and I love those 2 boys named Robert and Will, who I want to leave them with a better country than what I'm seeing now. So that is my why. And I have had the privilege of serving as your National Committeewoman for the past 8 years. Now, most of you know what the National Committeewoman does, but just for those of you that don't, even if there's 1 person in this room, I want to explain to you, 3 people from each state and territory are elected. There are 168 of us to serve on the Republican National Committee. It's a 4-year term, and I liken it to every company has a board. So we're the board of directors for the Republican Party. We don't do policy. We don't. A lot of times I get questions about things, and I say I'm going to stick to what we do. The 3 main things the Republican National Committee does is, #1 is we raise money to elect candidates at the federal level. That's the most important thing that we need to do. #2, every 4 years we get to plan the biggest party for our Republican president, hopefully president nominee, to become the president. So we do that. I'm on the Committee on Arrangements right now. I was just in Milwaukee actually this week looking at our hotel. For those of you who have delegates, it's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And then the 3rd thing we do, which is the most important to me too, is our platform. And to keep our platform as conservative as possible, we have done that, and we still do that, so we fight for that. So we meet 3 times a year, we have 2 business meetings a year, and we have a spring training. And during the 4 years, we go to that, but I also travel around the state. Friday night, I'm from the 6th district, so Friday night, I drove 5 hours, left my business, drove 5 hours round trip to go to the 9th district gala. I go all over the state. I went to Candace's wonderful fundraiser in the 1st district. That's my home district. So I travel around. I was in Newton County 2 weeks ago. I go around. I speak to the grassroots. I'm from the grassroots. And I go around and speak to people about what we're doing at the RNC. And this is what I said to y'all when I ran, that I would be your conservative voice to the RNC. I have 30 seconds. So I did that, and I have been honored to serve. But one thing I want to say that's most important that people don't realize is on the RNC you have relationships. I had relationships with other members, but I have a relationship with the new chairman who was elected because of election integrity, Michael Watley. We worked together for 5 years. He came and met with Jason and Josh and I. His #1 priority is election integrity, and I have 0 seconds. So, I'm excited to speak to y'all today. Thank you for having me, and God bless you.
Thank you, Ginger. Next is Amy Kremer for National Committeewoman. You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's great to be here. I came from Roswell, Georgia. Here we go. I came from Roswell, Georgia. I am born and raised Georgia Peach, born in Keystone Hospital in Cobb County, still live in that same area. I graduated from Lasseter High School, my daughter graduated from Lasseter High School, and we still live in that district. So I have not gone far. I am running for National Committeewoman because we need change. I love Ginger, she's great, she's done a good job for the past 8 years, but 2020 changed everything. I'm one of the founders of the modern day Tea Party, so we've always gone against the grain, pushed back on the Republican establishment. It happened during the Bush years, out of control spending, growing big government, that sort of thing. So we started the Tea Party movement. It blossomed into something no one could have ever imagined. I joined Tea Party Express as chairwoman. We elected conservative candidates all across the country. You talk about the Freedom Caucus. I helped elect Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, I mean, you name them, the conservatives, I worked to elect them. And so we have these great members in Congress, but we see what's happening. They need backup and support, right? Yeah. President Trump was elected in 2016. Amazing victory. We never saw it coming, really, but then what happened in 2018? We lost the House. And then in 2020, we lost the presidency, the House again, and the Senate. And then 2022, we saw what happened as well. We didn't get the victories we expected. That is not acceptable. Three election periods and we continue to lose. In 2020, when the election was stolen, the day after the election, I didn't know what to do because the RNC, the PACs, nobody was doing anything. And you didn't have to be a rocket scientist to see what was going on. You woke up that next morning and the numbers were not right, and you were like, what is going on? So I did all I knew to do was rally people. And so we showed up that night down at State Farm Arena. And then the rallies started happening across the country. We could not, everybody wanted to go to Washington, D.C. We couldn't get people to Washington, D.C. that Saturday, so we put in for the permit for the following weekend. We started a Facebook page, Stop the Steal. It grew unbelievably fast. In tech, they've never seen anything like it. You can't purchase it organically, and Facebook shut it down. Mark Zuckerberg himself shut it down within 36 hours. Yeah. Then, you know, Eventbrite shuts us down. I mean, I can go on and on, trying to shut us down every which way they can, but we weren't stopping. And so November 14th, we had the first rally in Washington, D.C. at Freedom Plaza, and 1 million people came from all corners of this country. And it was unbelievable because people dropped everything in their lives at a moment's notice. There were no plane tickets to get to DC, no train tickets. People were driving from California, from the West Coast, and they came because they loved their country, they loved their president, but because the election had been stolen, and it wasn't just stolen from President Trump, it was stolen from we the people. That's right. We got to do something. I mean, yes, we're going into the holidays. Politics doesn't happen in November and December, right? But we had to do something. We got a bus. We put March for Trump on the side of the bus, and we started across the country. We did another rally in D.C. on December 12th. And then we took the bus, instead of going home to our families at Christmas, we took the bus and went to the West Coast and started our trek back to Washington to end up in Washington on January 6th to stand with President Trump. Women for America First, I'm the chairwoman of Women for America First. We're the ones that did all that. It was our event at the Ellipse on January 6th. I spoke on that stage before President Trump. We never went to the Capitol. We didn't tell people to go to the Capitol. But the thing was, the people wanted to do something, right? So people marched to the Capitol. Well, we all know what's happened since then. The federal government has been weaponized against us. And while Ginger talks about the platform of the party, I'm conservative as they come. All the values that everybody else believes in here at this convention. But it's not enough anymore. We are fighting for our freedom and liberty and for justice for all. It's not enough to just, espouse conservative values anymore. We have to stand up and fight. And the RNC has not done it. And I don't believe that anybody has stood here and supported the electors here in Georgia that have been indicted, and now it's happened in Arizona, and we must stand with them. I have 0 seconds left, so I'll leave it at that, and then I would love to have your vote, and I'll be here till the end, so I'd love to talk to you.
So if you want to see here, we're gonna have Q&A. Ginger, if you can come up, we're gonna do Q&A up here. And just so everyone knows, you can both have a seat over here, yeah, on my left. I mean, just so you know, there's a third candidate I have heard of in the race. That's Sean Cross. We did not receive an application for endorsement from her. So that's just a notification. David Cross is also running for committee man. He also did not submit an application. He sent out an email this morning and a text message stating that he's going to a funeral, but we asked for an application far in advance. He also specifically said he was choosing to be at a funeral for a dear friend over the convention, but saying that endorsements don't matter. So that is just the other candidate that is not being mentioned in either of these races is, I know it's not on now. Yeah, so the other candidate who's not here is like that. Just so everyone knows, we invited them, they chose not to submit an application. That's why there's no speaking on their behalf. So with that, we'll start into question and answer. I think, Brant, are you going to hand the microphone back and forth? All right. So Brant's going to have that microphone. I'm going to have a lapel mic. And so let's start this off.
Hands up, first question.
So who has any questions? Yes, Mr. Frost.
We got a couple of questions. So,
go ahead. You make yourself heard with that microphone.
So, if you would, try to, and I think, well, what's the kind of pivotal issue? I'm trying to crystallize, get clear in my mind, what's the pivotal issue here in this race? If Secretary of State, say, was running, it would be about investigating the bad elections and making sure that never happened again. If it was the Senate, you would want to stop funding for forever wars and treaty with Iran and the Paris Accord. What's the pivotal issue here in the National Committee Women's race? And each of you ladies estimate.
I'll go. Is this on? The pivotal issue is that we have to win in 2024. We're going to lose our country. And we have to do everything we can to make sure that we get Donald Trump back in the White House. And one of the things, and I appreciate Amy's comments about the election, because we do care about that. And the RNC and the Georgia Republican Party has spent $1.5 million for these electors that were unjustly indicted. We have paid $1.5 million of their legal fees because it was ridiculous what happened to them. And I am so thankful. A week and a half ago, I was with President Trump in a roundtable here in Atlanta, and he said to us, the reason that I chose Michael Whatley to be the chair of the party is because of what he did in North Carolina. Election integrity is the #1 thing. We have to make sure that we have fair and we have fair elections, and we have to make sure that we win this election, and Michael met with Jason and I and Josh, promised us 500 volunteer attorneys and lots of money to have be proactive and then post-active the day of the election, after the election. So the most important thing is secure elections and getting President Trump justly winning. We believe he won last time, but this time that they say he won and we put him back in the White House. That's the number one thing. All else pales in comparison.
I agree with Ginger on that. Is this on? I agree with Ginger on that. That is the most important thing. But look, this is the reality. The RNC has not had any place for the grassroots in a long time. In 2012, I was invited to the RNC with like 50 plus Tea Party leaders when Michael Steele was there. After Michael Steele left, there's been no place, okay? Women for America First held the only rally in Washington, D.C. for the impeachment rally in October 2019. The RNC never called once to support it, never sent anybody to show up or anything. Then on January 6th, I mean, this is unbelievable to me. From November, the day after the election through January 6th, not one word from the RNC from anybody. Not, can we support you? Can we send somebody to speak? What can we do to help you? And on January 6th, when we're all standing at the ellipse with President Trump fighting for freedom and transparent free elections, the RNC was at Amelia Island at the Ritz-Carlton. Now, I know how contracts work in these, in conventions, and you pay for in advance, but why could Ronna have not been there to support President Trump? Why couldn't everybody have been there to support President Trump and you show up at the Ritz-Carlton later? It's not enough just to say we have to win elections. You can't win elections without the grassroots. We are the base of the party. We are the Republican Party, and we're tired of being ignored. We're tired of it.
For the record, I was at January 6th. I flew up there and flew down to Amelia Island that night. So just for the record, there was one RNC member there.
Oh, I mean, I'm glad you were there, Ginger. I didn't know you were there. But the reality is the RNC never lifted one finger of support. And I want to say this too. The RNC saying that they support these electors, and yes, the Georgia GOP has paid this money. The RNC is paying for Ronna McDaniel's legal bills, but they're not paying for David Schaefer's legal bills, and he was a committee member of the RNC when all this went down. They did nothing wrong. The chairwoman went to the state parties and asked them to put together the alternate electors. They did, and now we just saw what happened in Arizona. It's happened there too. It's happened in 4 states now. They raised over $100 million for election integrity, and where the hell did it go? I mean, somebody has to ask the question. So I will tell you, I will stand with Josh McCoon and push on the RNC to pay the legal bills of these committee people that are under indictment. It's not right, it's not fair, and if we don't stand with them, nobody will ever stand up and do anything ever again. Because people are tired of sacrificing their office and then being back there.
Next question.
Next question.
Hey, so we're already going through this nightmare with the Josh McCoon, Brian Pritchard, David Cross scenario, okay, with the infighting and the nonsense that's going on. Because the people that, I just think that if you're chairman, these are your responsibilities. If you're vice chairman, first, second, third, these are what you do. But what I'm starting to see is people are taking in these positions so that they can get into a fist fight. They get inside and they get into a fist fight. What we need is representation. So we need representation to come in, maybe soft sometimes. Amy, the things you bring up are great subjects or whatnot, and I know that Ginger's on top of this too. But the thing is a presentation. You can make a great meal. You can really just slop it out on a paper plate, And so I just think we need to really consider somebody that gets along with everybody, or at least with as many people as we can. I think that is the kind of thing. It's great to fight and all this and roll up our sleeves, but we also have to get along. So I encourage
you can be nice and get along and still fight and get stuff done. And that's what needs to happen. I'm a coalition builder. The coalition bill for Stop the Steal, March for Trump, was probably the largest coalition ever. And we all need to work together. But at some point, when your freedom is under attack and the government is coming after everybody just because you're a Trump supporter, it's not enough just to be nice anymore. It's not enough. We have to stand up and push back, and we need to be speaking out about it.
That's right. Brand said something good. He said, "What's my question?" The question is simply this: how are you going to communicate with these people if you're fighting with them? How are you?
I'm not going to fight. This is the thing. I'm not fighting with them. A lot of the RNC committee people I know and have relationships with because I've worked with them for years from all my 15 years in the Tea Party movement. So I have relationships with these people. I've worked with them. I'm more than happy to work with them. I mean, I communicate with a number of them regularly. So, but the RNC has never been representative of the base and the grassroots. And like I said, we are the GOP, and there needs to be a voice there representing the people.
When you say never, it would turn off some of the people.
When I say what?
When you say they never help, then it turns off some of the people that you're trying to negotiate.
Well, I mean, I'm being honest.
Give me 1 second. Ginger, do you want to answer the question about what
I do think
I have a follow-up to the point.
Okay, a lot of people say, I've had a question today, what people say when you're not assertive enough. Don't mistake my sweetness for weakness. I mean, I am a soft-spoken person, but I stand up for what's right and I fight for what's right. And so I'm a fighter too, but I also already have relationships on the committee, and it does matter at the RNC. Seniority matters at the RNC. I'm the senior member of our Georgia delegation, and that matters. I know how to get the resources that Georgia is going to need because I have a relationship with our chairman now. No, not everything is perfect to the RNC. Not everything is perfect in anything. I mean, we live in a fallen world. We're fallen institutions, but we're doing the best that we can with what we can. We did make a change. Michael Whiteley, we have Laura Trump. We raised $65.5 million that first month when the change happened. So we are doing things, and election integrity is the #1 thing that is on the top of our list now, which I know at times wasn't, but it is now. So I think that that's important.
I have a follow-up regarding all of this immediate discussion. So I do not have a lot of relationships with people on the RNC, but each of you have stated that you have relationships with people on the RNC. I know that on the RNC, there's not and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a national term limit on committeeman and committeewoman. In Georgia, there is a term limit. It's 3 4-year terms. We instituted that with the state party to avoid people being there forever. I know that on the national level, some states have people that have been there a lot longer. I know that some of those people have a lot of relationships within the political industry and make money, or their friends make money, off of the RNC, which is a structural issue. But what I'm wondering is specifically regarding the idea of indemnifying Georgia and David Schaefer and others for their legal bills. What are the actual procedural barriers to that on the RNC getting it fixed, and how is that going to be overcome? Because I mean, both of you have relationships there, so I guess I'm sort of challenging you both. How are you going to balance the fact that some of those people are there that have a lot of institutional incentive versus getting it done, and how can that be done? Are you going to draw public attention to it? What's going to happen?
One of the things that we've already done is at our last meeting that Josh and Tyler from Arizona co-sponsored a bill, which Jason and I were part of that, passing the a resolution to get the RNC to help with the legal fees. So we're working on that now. We have been we are talking to the general counsel, and we're talking with the chairman about getting money for our, not just in Georgia. We have a friend in Michigan, Kathy Bearden, and then Arizona just happened. So we're working on that very strongly.
And I want to say, it's an unbinding resolution. That's the problem, is what was binding, it was watered down, and now it's an unbinding resolution. So you go to the RNC website and you see this resolution, you don't know who signed it, you don't know who supported it or anything. But this is the thing. They were indicted last August. I mean, why is it just happening now? Why is it just happening now? As somebody who has been under subpoena from the J6 committee and the DOJ because of hosting the rally at the Ellipse on January 6th, I mean, when you are under that scrutiny and they're coming after you and your friends abandon you, it's not fun. If you can't pay the legal bills for these people, we should at least be holding a press conference saying we support them, encourage them, and we stand with them. But nobody's done that. And I called for you and Jason to do it in a signal group last year, or in July of 22, when Bonnie Willis was starting her witch hunt. Radio silence. And David Schaefer couldn't do it because, I mean, somebody needed to stand up and defend the GOP, the Georgia GOP. And David Schaefer couldn't do it because he was in the frying pan. He was one of the targets of her investigation. I wrote an op-ed about it. I called on Ronna, Ginger, and Jason, and nothing.
Well, let me just say,
No one reads everything you put out there.
I just say, I have my own business. I don't read signal chats hardly ever. I'm sorry, I don't read that. So, that's not.
And I'm just wondering, do you all know, and again, I'm counting on your extensive experience on the UNC, who on the RNC is standing in the way of this happening? Like, do you know the members' names? Do you know? Either of you know who? Or just curious.
We got two more.
Yes, Christy.
Sure. So both women up on stage said that they attended January 6th, the rally. A lot of us in this room either did or know people who did, and a lot of those people faced some fairly serious consequences merely for legally attending. I'm curious if either of you are willing to speak on any consequences you may have faced for attending January 6th.
No, I have not had any.
So I have the first round of subpoenas from the J6 committee. We were in the first round. Then we were subpoenaed by the DOJ. But in addition, and it's not reported in the news, one thing that's happening is these leftist groups are funding, like the Capitol Hill police officers that are suing President Trump and others for what happened at the Capitol that day. And so what they do is they come in and they subpoena us for records, 3 years of records. January 1st, 2020 through present day, all communications, all social media, everything. Well, you have to respond to that subpoena, because if you don't, you're going to be held in contempt of court. But what they're doing is it's a fishing expedition and a witch hunt to see what's in there, and then they turn around and turn it over to the DOJ, the prosecutors, whatever. I mean, I have nothing to hide. We legally got a permit for the Ellipse that day. First Amendment rally, permitted by the National Park Service. We did nothing wrong. But listen, these electors shouldn't be indicted either. They can indict a ham sandwich. So it is what it is. Every American, they're arresting people for just being on the lawn of the Capitol, didn't even go inside. So it's, we're gonna live with this threat until Biden's out of there.
Any other questions? Right, Mr. Freeman. I see you, Mr. Frost, but I'll get everybody else first.
Right here.
Oh, sorry.
I've got the mic.
Oh, right. Denise, you first, then Mr. Freeman.
Amy, I know you back from 2006 when the first Tea Party started. I know you from Trump for Women. I know all the wonderful things you do. That said, Ginger said in her statement there are 3 things that she is responsible for currently as a committee woman. How are you going to raise the money that is number 1 on that list of responsibilities?
Well, I have contacts too, and I can raise money too. But this is the most important thing. You can raise all the money you want, and if it's not being spent the right way and you're not winning races, you're wasting people's money. We need to make it right, and we need to make sure our elections are secure, and that when people cast their ballot and vote actually count. That's the most important thing. So, like I said, I have the connections. I can go out there and raise the money. I have contacts across this country. Not just on the National Committee, but across this country. And we'll continue to do the work that, it's just, I've done it before and I'll do it again. But the RNC they have to represent the base of the party. Look at what just happened with the leadership of Ronna McDaniel when they were raising no money. Why? Because the people were fed up with it. Right? And I will tell you, Absolutely, I would be able to do both. And I would have supported Harmeet. That should have been a no-brainer. First day out of the gate, Harmeet should have been the one, because anybody that looked at the past two or three elections should have said, we're losing, something's got to change. We cannot continue down the same path.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
Good morning, everybody. William Freeman, Second Vice Chair of DeKalb GOP and the 4th Congressional District GOP. As you are probably aware, there's been a lot of big news with potential 2 removal hearings of our state committee officers. Susan Applesooth, I believe on May 8th or May 9th, and Brian Pritchard the next day at the same location. I wanted to see what y'all thought of the actual, if it was wise to have these hearings in the first place, and if either one of y'all made a decision what position you're making, and if you haven't, will you make your position public? Ginger, I'm assuming you're going to be voting on Susan's hearing, but I'd like to hear both of you. There's a lot of people that are paying attention to this. Thank you.
I appreciate that question, but it has nothing to do with my role as National Committeewoman, so I'm not going to go there.
I'm not on the Georgia Executive Committee, but I do believe, I don't know anything about the Susan issue, what's going on there. With the Brian Pritchard issue, my concern is that because he's been found guilty of voting illegally the 9 times, that takes election integrity. It neutralizes that issue. It takes it off the table. And that is like the #1 thing for us. And so we can't allow that to happen. And I know that Brian's done good work speaking, you know, out there fighting for election integrity, whatnot. But the reality is a title doesn't enable you to do anything, and he can continue to do that work. And if he is removed, then, and he is not guilty, then appeal it and then go back and run again.
You're not on the state committee, is that correct?
Right.
And this is just
Brad Frost
this is just for
next.
the audience. And I just, you'll both have a chance to respond to this, but the National Committeewoman is on the state committee, so wouldn't be voting on this, correct?
Correct.
All right, just making sure, because you said that your role has nothing to do with it, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows.
Well, the role of the National Committee, of being on the National Committee, but yes, you're right.
Ginger, I think it's important for a lot of people to know what your position is on this. Even though it doesn't have anything to do with what you're running for right now, you still are going to be a critical vote when this comes up. And if you've got a position on it, I think, you know, just like you say, you're not meek, you're ready to take a position on stuff. Let us know if it's going to be fire one way or another. This is something that's important to a lot of people.
Well, I appreciate that, but
You're welcome. All right. Yes, Katie Frost.
Now you can just about mine. Amy, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate with you and Ginger. Thank you for your service.
Microphone, please.
I'm not loud enough today. All right.
I can hear you.
I was just saying thank you both for being here. Amy, all the work you've done in activism, and Ginger, your many years of service, greatly appreciated. Kind of to Alex's point, he said that we have a 3-term limit, a term limit of 3 terms for the RNC. So Ginger, this would be your final term. And Amy, as you just said, relating to Brian Pritchard, you're able to do everything without a title. So why do you think you need to run now? You have not, you've stated your frustration with the RNC, which I understand a lot of people share. I've been upset about things. It does motivate people to action. But you haven't made the case for why, when you're running against an incumbent, you're running to fire that person. You have not made that case. Why do you need this title now? Why could you not run in 4 years?
First of all, I don't need a title. I've done plenty. I'm not doing this because I need it on my resume. I actually have been, asked to do this by a number of people, and for months, and I didn't want to do it and didn't want to do it. I actually have a 13-year-old Maltipoo at home that has liver cancer, and she's crossing over Rainbow Bridge on Monday. And so I did not, this was not in my cards, but I've been asked to do it and asked and pleaded with, and to give the grassroots a voice. And those are people here in Georgia, people that are in the GOP, the Georgia GOP. And I spent my career for 15 years, I cut my teeth in politics on congressional and Senate races, asking people to run, asking people to step up. And I'm of the belief that I'm not gonna ask somebody to do something if I'm not willing to do it myself. And so, here I am. And I do believe we need change on the RNC. I think that we need to support the electors. There hasn't been enough strong support for the electors. It's just in Ginger, with all due respect, you won't take a position on Brian Pritchard and you have a vote. You will never not know where I stand on an issue. You may not agree with me, and we can discuss why you don't agree with me or why I feel the way I feel, but you will always know where I stand. I'm not gonna be wishy-washy. I'm not gonna hide and say, I don't know, I haven't decided, whatever. You will know where I stand. And I think that we need that strong, decisive leadership in times like this.
So then as a follow-up, if you do not make it on the first round of voting, who would you support in a second round?
In the second round of voting at state convention?
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't even considered that.
Well,
I don't know Sean Cross, I know nothing about her, so.
well, you just told us you would always let us know where you stand.
All right, so.
Right, but I don't,
there doesn't need to be an argument, that is sort of a tactical question.
yeah, I don't know Sean Cross, I've never met her, all I saw is she's running, I couldn't tell you anything about her.
Right,
And I haven't looked into it, honestly, it just happened a week ago.
all right, and.
But I'll look and I'll let you know.
Ginger, did you?
And also, this is-
Ginger, so responding
Yes.
to both who
Yes,
you would
right,
support in the second
right.
round voting and.
Right, okay. First of all, sometimes, I know, I can talk to you one-on-one about certain things that are going on the state executive committee, but sometimes when there are gotcha questions, and I'm not gonna go there, and you can kill more flies with honey than vinegar, so there's no need in sometimes saying certain things. And I am a grassroots conservative. I have not missed a state convention since 2009. I travel all over the state. So to infer that I'm not grassroots, I'm just not going to sit here and take that. I am grassroots. I've been grassroots since 2009. And sometimes when you've been doing this for a long time, you might think, well, that person's been doing it a long time, so they're not grassroots anymore. The very reason is I am grassroots and I continue to do it, and I don't get paid. I pay to do it, and sometimes it is not easy. I did not vote for Ronna. I voted for Harmeet. I did not come out and support out loud. As I said, you kill more flies with honey than vinegar. I voted for Harmeet. Harmeet knows I voted for Harmeet. Ronna knows I voted for Harmeet. Harmeet has endorsed me to be the National Committeewoman. So just because you might run something, you might relate differently doesn't mean that you're not a strong leader. It's just we all have different leadership tactics.
All right, well,
One more question. Just real quick. When President Trump got involved in politics in 2015, 2016, I traveled coast to coast, and the number one thing I heard from people about why they supported him is because he would not back down. He would tell you how he felt, and he wouldn't back down, and he wouldn't tail and run. And he fought for people like us. He fought for the people just like he would fight for his own family. I think that part of the problem is we need people that are going to take a stand and say where they stand and not hide behind for whatever reason. That is what we need in today's world. It cannot be, look at the Congress. It's not acceptable when they don't tell us where they're voting and don't call until after the vote. You have a constituency. Your constituency deserves to know.
all right, well, we're about at lunchtime, so there's a final question for both candidates.
Yes, please. The electors, on legal bills for the electors. A comment and then a question. The state Senate in Georgia does a lot of stupid things, right? And we can be very angry at what they do. But we're not going to throw out Colton Moore because he's a member of the state Senate, right? And Ginger and Jason both voted for Harmeet they opposed Ron. Ron McDaniel was the problem. The wicked witch is gone. And so hopefully the new man is going to do a great job. So I think it's important if the U.S. Senate does stupid things, we're not mad at Rand Paul or Mike Lee or Ted Cruz. So I think we need to keep that in perspective. The question is, will you, either or both of you ladies commit to using your influence on the RNC to help pay the legal bills for the electors in Georgia and the ones in Arizona who are under assault by these crazy DAs?
Will we?
Yes.
Have a question?
Yeah, will you commit to?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm calling for it right now. They should be paid. There should be no question. They were asked to do it, and they're members of the executive committee. They should be paid. Their legal bills should be paid. Absolutely.
Absolutely, they're all my friends, and I'm already doing that.
All right, well, everyone please give the Committeewomen candidates a round of applause. Thank you both.